a fight career that saw him hold gold in Japan, the UFC, and achieve victories over many of the best fighters the US and Japan had to offer, and was deemed the most dangerous man on the planet, how good was Ken Shamrock? Ken Shamrock started his career in open weight fighting before the UFC was even a thing. Japan already had their own organization called Pancrase. The rules were different and focused more on shoot fighting, a form of grappling, and stand-up striking as opposed to straight ground and pound, although it was not against the rules, especially if initiated by a downed opponent. In his first match, September 21st, 1993, Ken faced off against Masakatsu Funaki. Funaki controlled the striking from the beginning of the fight and avoided close distance with Ken Shamrock. However, Ken weathered the storm of strikes and was able to close the distance and secure a Darce choke, earning his first victory. The same year, he faced off against Yoshiki Takahashi. He was able to evade all of his submission attempts and secure a rear naked chokehold, but Takahashi escaped using the rope escape in the fight. The fight continued and Ken pressured Takahashi, dragging him to the center of the ring where he secured a heel hook, forcing him to tap. His next opponent was Takake Fuke, who Ken defeated in less than a minute by a rear naked chokehold. Takake refused to tap in this fight and was actually choked unconscious. Going 3-0 in 3 months, Ken entered the UFC tournament a mere 4 days after his fight, where he faced off against Patrick Smith. Ken wasted no time in closing the distance against the kickboxer, taking Pat to the ground where he had very little experience and chance against Ken's deadly heel hooks. Ken secured a heel hook and Pat attempted to escape by throwing a kick at Shamrock's head, but the lock was secured and Pat tapped, showing he was in extreme pain. People at the time did not know how effective grappling was, and Ken was booed as he exited the arena by the screaming crowd, who doubted that he had won a legitimate victory. Ken next faced against Royce Gracie, the only other grappler on the card in the tournament. The start was good for Ken, who took Royce down and applied pressure, but Royce reversed the position and secured a choke on Ken, handing him his first loss. Despite the loss, Ken was humble in defeat as he was ecstatic in victory. Returning to Japan in December, he defeated Andre Van Den by heel hook before facing Minoru Suzuki in January the following year. Minoru brought the fight straight to Ken, despite his size and weight disadvantage. He survived all of Ken's submission attempts and reversed the position when he was on the bottom, before securing a knee bar, forcing Ken to go for a rope escape. However, when told to continue the fight, Ken declined as he was in a lot of pain, and Minoru, who was expecting the fight to continue, leaped for joy as he had handed Ken his first loss in Pancrase and in Japan. After his second defeat, Ken defeated Ryushi Nagasawa by heel hook in April, and Matt Hume by Kimura in July. His fight against Matt Hume was one of the exciting ones that saw both men take each other down several times. It was the first time somebody had actually ragdolled Ken and outmuscled him, even taking him to Suplex City once. Matt, however, had no way to follow up once on the ground, and Ken weathered the storm and submitted Matt by Kimura before facing Bas Rutten that same month. Bas was known for his dangerously lethal striking, having put Shamrock's previous opponent, Ryushi, in the hospital for 2 days when he fought him. Bas came out swinging and guns blazing, but Shamrock wisely took Bas to the ground, who at the time had little grappling skills. The fight would go on for over 16 minutes, King's longest to date. Rutten would escape multiple submissions from Ken using the rope escape, but Ken eventually secured a rear naked chokehold, defeating Rutten. September 1st, Ken fought his first rematch, one against Masakatsu Funaki, who came out more aggressively and defeated Ken via choke. Shaking off his third loss, Ken returned to fight in the UFC 8 days later, where he hoped not only to win the tournament, but also to avenge his loss against Royce Gracie. He defeated Christoph Lininger by outmuscling him before finishing him on the ground with strikes. He then defeated Felix Mitchell via rear naked chokehold. Despite having a great night, Ken was too fatigued to continue the tournament and face Royce, and pulled out. He returned to Japan, where he quickly defeated Takake Fuke in their rematch by rear naked chokehold once again, before competing in a 2-day tournament that would determine who the King of Pancrase would be. He first defeated Alex Cook by heel hook and Mario Smith by Darce choke on December 16, 1996, before facing his third match with Masakatsu Funaki, a rubber match where both men were 1-on-1, who he defeated by arm triangle. His last opponent the same evening was Manabu Yamada. It would be Ken's first fight to go the distance. Yamada attempted to strike with Ken, but Ken easily took him to the ground and controlled him there. The fight lacked a lot of action, and neither one seriously went for a submission while on the ground. Ken rose to his feet at the end of the fight, feeling he had not done enough to win, but the Japanese judges gave him the unanimous decision, and a shocked Shamrock jumped for joy, receiving the news, as he was now the champion and the King of Pancrase, having fought 4 times in 2 nights, finishing 3 of his 4 opponents and going the distance with the 4th opponent, who he completely controlled. Ken had clearly earned his belt. In January 1995, he defeated Leon Jeek by heel hook before facing Bas Rutten for a second time. This time, the title, King of Pancrase, would be on the line. Unlike the first match, however, which saw Bas come out guns blazing, Ken Shamrock wasted no time in closing the distance and putting Bas on his back, where he still at the time had very little grappling ability. Finishing him off with one of the most beautiful knee bars I've ever seen to this day. Ken didn't just defend his title, he made it look easy against the most dangerous striker the organization had to offer. With the King of Pancrase belt safe, Ken returned to the US on April 7th, and finally got his rematch with became a snooze fest where Ken literally sat on Royce for 31 minutes. The fighters went into 5 minutes of overtime at the end of 31 minutes. Here, Shamrock came out aggressively and landed a punch on Royce that had changed the course of the fight, opening up a brutal mouse underneath Royce's eye. When Ken took Royce down this time, he added headbutts. Ken had definitely put a beating on Royce, but was unable to capture the title of champion. In May, he returned to Japan to defend his title, the King of Pancrase, against Masakatsu Funaki in the rematch. This was the only man to defeat Ken that he had not avenged a loss against. Minoru once again came out aggressively, not fearing Ken's superior size, and defeated him by a knee bar, handing Ken his fourth defeat and capturing Ken's title in the process. In July, Ken returned to the UFC where he faced Dan Severn for the Super Fight Championship, the title he had failed to capture from Royce 2 months earlier. Ken showed his wrestling skill and strength against Dan, not being afraid to stand in the clinch with him despite Severn's weight advantage. Dan went down for a leg, and Ken secured a guillotine choke on him that had Severn in trouble. However, Severn escaped. Severn once again attempted a takedown, and this time Ken locked on a very tight guillotine, forcing him to tap. Ken was at last the UFC Super Fight Championship. He scored a victory in Japan over Larry Papadopoulos in July, before returning to defend his title against Oleg Taktarov on September 8th. The fight went the full 33 minutes, but Shamrock delivered much damage to Taktarov, even though the fight was declared a draw. Shamrock, however, retained his title. Shamrock closed the year with a submission victory over Katsuyomi Inagaki in December, and opened 1996 with the decision victory over Kazuo Takahashi in January, both in Japan. February 16th, he faced Kimo Leopoldo with his UFC belt on the line. Ken wasted no time at the sound of the bell and rushed forward, quickly putting Kimo on his back, avoiding a striking contest with him. From the top position, Ken worked some light ground and pound, but was clearly looking for a submission rather than to win by strikes. The fight was going Ken's way as usual. Once he was in full mount, the crowd began to cheer as they expected Ken to pound Kimo into submission. But Ken sacrificed the striking option and went for a submission. Kimo used his strength to reverse the position, and now on top threw heavy ground and pound and headbutts against Ken, looking for the finish. The crowd cheered and began to scream Kimo's name as they felt he was about to take Ken's belt from him and finish him in brutal fashion. However, Ken secured a leg lock, desperately held onto it, pulled tightly, and stayed calm, and forced Kimo to tap from knee bar. Although victorious, this was the first fight in the UFC where Ken took damage, and I do feel it affected his intimidating aura. His face showed signs of damage after the fight, and although it was a brief moment, he was clearly in danger of being defeated. Ken, at the end of the fight, also called out Dan Severn for a rematch, as many viewed his first fight against Dan as a fluke. The rematch took place on May 17, 1996, and there was much anticipation as their first fight had a lot of action, and people were excited to see the rematch. However, it would become a 31-minute snooze fest where both men stood up, refusing to throw punches against each other. Ken would later say this was because he had been told by the authorities that he was not allowed to throw punches, and if he threw any closed fist punches to the face, he would be disqualified. After the 31 minutes, they went to 5 minutes of overtime, where Dan was able to take Ken down and land some damage with ground and pound. However, since this fight actually had judges, unlike the previous two against Oleg and Royce, Dan was handed the split decision victory. Ken had lost his super fight belt. Ken closed the year with a submission victory over Brian Johnson December 7th. After this, Ken would take a 4-year layoff from the sport, not returning until 2000. He would, however, continue coaching and developing his team at the Lions Den gym. It was at this time that the rivalry between he and Tito Ortiz would start. When Ken returned in the year 2000, it was not in the UFC, but in the Pride organization. Ken faced Alexander Utsoko on May 1st, who he utterly dominated for over 9 minutes before finishing him with a punch, followed by some vicious ground and pound that went on a little longer than necessary. This was Ken's first KO victory and his second victory by strikes. In August, Ken faced Kazuyuki Fujita at Pride 10, Return of the Warriors. The fight was explosive, and Ken opened up the fight, dominating the strikes on the feet. Fujita closed the distance and was looking for a takedown. Ken, however, who did not want to be taken to the ground, desperately held onto the ropes to avoid being taken down. He was issued a yellow card warning, but the fight continued. The warning and separation played in Ken's favor as he resumed striking and was clearly looking for the knockout. He knocked Fujita to the ground, but when he rushed in closely, Fujita went for a leg, and Ken avoided finishing him even though he had a good chance. He did, however, secure a tight guillotine on Fujita's neck that had the commentators feeling that the fight was over. Vegeta, however, survived. Ken at this point had burned his arms out, and Vegeta was clearly still rocked from the beating that Ken had put on him. Ken had even knocked Vegeta's mouthpiece out to the ground. At this point, both fighters slowed down, carefully gauging themselves for the next move. Ken was still looking for a knockout, and Vegeta was looking for a takedown. Vegeta closed the distance, and both men threw knees and uppercuts and punches in a bunch. However, Ken was getting the better of the exchange. Vegeta continued to apply pressure and push Ken back. At this point in the fight, Ken began shouting something to his corner, and his corner threw in the towel. Vegeta was awarded the technical knockout win, but obviously not without controversy, as many felt that Shamrock could have finished his opponent. Shamrock did not fight again until August 2001 in the WMMAA Mega Fight, where he won the heavyweight title against Sam Atkins, who he quickly submitted in 1 minute and 26 seconds. In February 2002, he fought a war with Don Frye, who was the Ultimate UFC tournament winner in 1996. Shamrock and Frye had bad blood leading up to this fight, as Don Frye, who also played a heel in Japanese wrestling, had trash-talked Shamrock in regard to his marital and family problems. No doubt it was an excellent way to hype up the fight, but their personas and their images played a major role, just because of the contrast in their appearance. Don Frye had a muscular physique and was less cut than Shamrock, and sported a Burt Reynolds-style mustache and sounded like Tom Selleck when he spoke. He also wore American flag shorts. Shamrock had wild hair like a 50s greaser and long sideburns. He was a street kid with a loud, tough guy persona. As one writer put it, he was like a roided-up member of the Outsiders going against the symbol of American authority in Don Frye. The two stood face to face in the stare down, not shaking hands, and waited for the bell. When it rang, Shamrock wasted no time rushing into Frye. The two immediately engaged in a wrestling clinch and threw bombs at each other. The majority of the first round was much of this. However, due to his boxing background, Don Frye was clearly landing the harder shots and shaking Shamrock vigorously, even lifting him a little with each blow. Clearly outclassed on the feet, 4 minutes to the end of the bell, Shamrock took Frye down and looked for a heel hook that he secured. Don Frye tried desperately to punch his way out of it using savage ground and pound, but was unable to escape Shamrock's hold. Shamrock pulled tightly on the leg, however Frye refused to tap and waited for the end of the bell. At the end of the bell, Shamrock went back with his face cut, and Frye limped back to his corner. In round 2, both men came out slower as if they were fighting in a fall, closing in the clinch multiple times. Frye was still in pain from the vicious leg lock attempt, and Shamrock was still rocked from the punches. However, Frye was throwing hooks when they were separated and overhands and knees when they were in close, clearly winning the round. In the opening of the third, Shamrock closed the distance and engaged in a clinch with Frye, not wanting to box with him. However, Frye was about to win. However, Shamrock's good jiu-jitsu ability showed here, and he was able to reverse the position by getting on top of Frye. Frye, still the fresher of the two, looked for a double armbar, but to no avail. Both men would eventually go for a heel hook and pull each other extremely tightly until the end of the bell. Frye was awarded the split decision victory. I went deeper into this fight not only because it's one of both men's best performances, but it was also a career changer for them. Neither Ken Shamrock nor Don Frye would be the same after this fight. Both men gave it their all, and both men took a lot out of each other. The respect both men showed afterwards was the icing on the cake, as Frye apologized for what he had said about Ken Shamrock previously. He would even go on later to state that had he known the fight would be such a grueling war, he would not have talked so much trash. In November the same year, Ken Shamrock would face Tito Ortiz for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. This fight had bad blood written all over it. People expected a war between Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, and the fight actually broke records for sales at the UFC at the time. However, that would not be the case, as Tito would go on to dominate Shamrock for the entire fight. In the first round, landing brutal shots against Shamrock and taking him down. Shamrock had no answer for Tito's ground and pound, which at the time was some of the best in the world, and probably still is to this day. The second round was much of the first, as Tito began to brutally beat on him. The second round, he was able to escape to his feet, but Tito outstruck him there as well. The third was much of the same as the first and the second, with Tito continuing to beat him. For the fourth, the corner threw in the towel, and Tito was awarded the TKO. Ken would take another layoff after the first of his 2 consecutive losses. He returned in 2004 to face Kimo Leopoldo in a rematch at UFC 40. Ken quickly engaged in a clinch with Kimo and knocked him out with a brutal uppercut knee. It would be Ken's only victory for the next 4 years. He was defeated by Rich Franklin April of 2005, Kazushi Sakuraba in October the same year, although not without controversy, as many believe Shamrock was able to continue. He faced Tito Ortiz for a second and third time in 2006. First in July, as fans were disappointed at what they called an early stoppage, where he was defeated by Tito. And again October, where Ken was soundly pounded into defeat. Post-fight, Ken stated that it would be his last time to fight in the UFC, a promise he would keep. In 2008, Ken lost to Robert Berry in the Cage Rage promotion in London. All 5 of these consecutive losses came by TKO, and many believe that Shamrock should retire. However, Shamrock would continue fighting. He would pick up a submission win in only a minute over Ross Clifton in February of 2009, but tested positive for steroids after the fight. In 2010, he suffered a loss to Pedro Pizzo by TKO as a result of brutal leg kicks. In 2010, he won a unanimous decision over Jonathan Ivey in October, and lost by TKO to Mike Bork in November. Ken would take another long layoff from the fight before signing with Bellator in the year 2015, 5 years since he fought. He faced Kimbo Slice in June of that year. Shamrock lost the match, which many believed to be fixed, as he had secured a rear naked chokehold on Kimbo, but let go for no reason at all. It was finished by punches in the first round. In 2016, Shamrock finally got his third fight with Royce Gracie, where he lost by TKO after Royce closed the clinch and landed a knee to Shamrock's face, following with ground and pound. However, Ken would later complain that he received a low blow. Footage did indeed support Ken's claims, but many believe the blow was not severe enough to actually hurt Ken as he was wearing a cup, and it was a grazing blow that was clearly going up towards the body. Despite the controversy, Ken was respectful to Royce after the match, shaking his hand. It was the last time that Ken would fight. Ironically, the first man to defeat Ken Shamrock in his fighting career was also the last. Ken's record overall saw him fight 47 times as a professional, where he achieved 28 victories, 17 losses, and 2 draws. He held gold both in the UFC and in Pancrase, and fought the best his competition had to offer him in his prime, and continuing to fight when many believed he was long over the hill. So, how good was Ken Shamrock? In all, I think Ken Shamrock was a stubborn man, and that affected him as a fighter. Usually your personal life outside the ring of any sport can definitely affect you, but it certainly was here. Ken would train with the idea that he was the absolute best and that he would never lose. He also would not work on his striking or on defending against strikes that much, and it was shown through his career. His brother Frank Shamrock and Bas Rutten, both men who fought the same time as Ken, would adapt their styles. However, Ken would not adapt the same way both these men would, and I believe this led to many losses later in his career that very well could have been victories. Also, his war with Don Frye was around the time he should have retired, as Ken continued and stayed way too long in the sport, long past his welcoming age. However, I do think Ken would be in the top 10 greatest submission fighters in MMA, but not in the top 20 best MMA fighters. He definitely was able to achieve some great submission victories over good fights. Do you agree, disagree, on how good Ken Shamrock was? Let me know in the comments below.